Hey, Devin, thank you. And we turn now to yet another police shooting. Tensions rising in Chicago this morning. The police department there under new scrutiny. Officers killing a teenager and also accidentally shooting and killing a mother of 5. ABC's Alex Perez is in Chicago with more now. Alex, good morning.
Good morning, Cecilia. The victims' families are demanding answers. At this point, Chicago police have not explained exactly why the officer fired his weapon. This morning, the Chicago Police Department is once again facing backlash.
I went to the hospital. My son has 7 bullet wounds in him. That's too much.
Officers fatally shot 19-year-old college student Quintonio LeGrier and accidentally killed a 55-year-old mother of 5, Betty Jones, after responding to a domestic disturbance call at LeGrier's home. The teenager was reportedly threatening his father with a bat when authorities were called in.
He was having a mental situation. Sometimes he'll get, a little loud, but not violent.
Jones lived on the ground floor of the 2-story home shared with LeGrier and was opening the door when she was caught in the line of fire and shot once.
Upon their arrival, they were confronted by a combative individual. The matter is under investigation.
The shooting came 2 days after protests against Chicago police officers' actions, including the killing of black teenager Laquan McDonald, shut down parts of the Magnificent Mile, a high-end shopping district in the city.
Why do police have to keep killing our youth? My son was an honor student. He was going somewhere.
Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who is facing calls for his resignation in these almost daily protests, said in a statement, anytime an officer uses force, the public deserves answers. And regardless of the circumstances, we all grieve anytime there is a loss of life in our city. And the officers involved are now on desk duty as an independent police review board investigates the shooting. Dan?
Alex, thank you. Just what the city did not need. We're going to move on now.
14 minutes past the hour, and a Chicago woman is shot to death by police. They call it a tragic accident. Family members call it recklessness and say it could have easily been prevented.
Police say 55-year-old Betty Jones was caught in the crossfire. It happened when Chicago police answered a 911 call early Saturday morning. The father of a 19-year-old college student said his son was threatening him with a baseball bat. His family says Quintonio LeGrier had a history of mental illness.
He was having a mental situation. Sometimes he'll get, a little loud, but not violent. I was just with my son on Christmas. I talked to him. I told him that he had to control his temper, but he wasn't violent.
LeGrier's father asked Betty Jones, their downstairs neighbor and mother of 5, to open the door for police. When she did, witnesses say LeGrier came charging down the stairs with a bat. Police opened fire, and both people were killed.
An innocent lady got shot as well because the police just was trigger happy. I went to the hospital. My son has 7 bullet wounds in him.
Chicago police apologized for Jones's death, saying in a statement, quote, upon arrival, officers were confronted by a combative subject resulting in the discharging of the officer's weapon, which fatally wounded 2 individuals. The 55-year-old female victim was accidentally struck and tragically killed. The department extends its deepest condolences to the victim's family and friends.
Now, I want to let you know the family is going to be holding a press conference today at 11 Central Time, and CNN will be there. Let's talk about this with Joey Jackson, CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney, as well as Tom Fuentes, CNN law enforcement analyst. And Tom, I want to start with you because last hour you talked about how the Christmas holiday can bring more tension to situations like this, to domestic situations. How important is what was said in and conveyed in the 911 call to this situation in general?
Well, it's very important, when a call comes in like that, you have this call coming from the father. And as you heard in the piece, the mother had talked to the son a couple of days ago on Christmas and tried to tell him to control his temper. And now the father is unable to, and the father is being threatened by LeGrier with a baseball bat and calls the police. So the police go knowing that this is a difficult situation, and upon arrival, if he charges them with a baseball bat, that pretty well confirms what they had said. And if the father can't calm him down and the mother can't calm him down, there's really not going to be much the police are going to be able to do verbally with a mentally ill person who's already charged up and threatening people with a bat.
All right. Joey, Chicago Congressman Bobby Rush says a taser should have been used or some other de-escalation device as opposed to immediately going for your gun. Now, Tom, you had said last hour they don't always work necessarily, but how plausible do you think it is that that is going to be the main focus of this?
You know, Christy, good morning to you. Good morning to you, Tom. It certainly will be a major focus because it's going to be what you look at. And, you know, certainly police have a very difficult job and they need to go home to their families at the end of the day. However, whenever you look and assess a police situation, you look at a number of things. One, you look at the immediacy of the threat. And would that threat represent such a danger to your life, the life of others, your partner, anyone around you, that you have to use that force? Number two, Christy, the proportionality of the force used. Do you need to shoot someone who's coming with you at a baseball with you or towards you with a baseball bat, or is there some less lethal way to contain the situation? And of course, number three, is it reasonable? And so yes, we get and understand that officers are in danger every day. We respect the work that they do. We're proud of the work that they do. However, should lethal force be the first alternative as opposed to the last alternative? And did the officer act responsibly in this situation to preserve a life as opposed to take one and then, of course, kill someone by accident? And so all of that needs to be evaluated.
Tom, he brings up a good point. Does it matter what the weapon is, whether it's a knife, whether it's a bat, whether it's a car? I mean, how does it differ? Do you have a protocol?
It only differs in terms of the proximity required to have that weapon injure you. So obviously a baseball bat, you have to be, within 2 or 3 feet of someone to harm them with a bat. But if the individual, when you go into somebody's home like that and they're at their request, at the father's request, and if in fact LeGrier was charging the police with a baseball bat, they're going to have a tenth of a second to try to neutralize him. And it's just, in some cases, not going to be enough time. But Joey's absolutely right. They're going to look at this and see, was there a possibility of an alternative, looking at the situation? And when they do the crime scene, how far was LeGrier from the police officer? How far was, where was the woman, Betty Jones, that was accidentally, tragically shot? All that will come into play during the investigation. I think the problem here is going to be politically, people on the outside from the comfort of their offices just automatically criticize the police and say they could have done something differently.
Well, and Joey, the police came out so quickly, acknowledging this and apologizing for it, calling it an accident. What does that do then for any possible civil action for her family, for Betty Jones' family?
Christy, we will see civil action. There's no question about it. And to be clear, sometimes the police act, and when they act, it could be criminal, as we've seen so many times. And other times it's civil. It's a tragic accident. And civil, of course, means the awarding of money. But, you got to have, and there has to be, some type of use of force continuum. And I know, that's easy to say in the comfort of your desk, in the comfort of your home. And police are encountering very treacherous and dangerous circumstances. But that's where training comes into play, and it's so important to do. As a former prosecutor, you do a ride-along to appreciate what the police go through. You go through something like the fun house where people pop up. Do you shoot? Do you not shoot? And so, look, it's a tough job. You don't want to put yourself in that situation, but you have to explore. Is there a way to de-escalate? If it's a baseball bat, are you really going to die? Could you use something else? Could you preserve a life as opposed to taking one? And so I think we'll certainly see a civil case. Whether there's a criminal case here will depend upon what the independent review agency has to say about it.
And Tom, real quickly, what do you have to say to the mother there who says she believes police were trigger happy?
Well, again, the mother herself said that he had mental problems and difficulty controlling his temper, and she warned him about that. The father's the one that called the police and was actually being threatened to the extent that he felt his life was in danger and he needed to call the police, couldn't handle LeGrier by himself. So I think that, to me, what she said indicates what the problem was for the police dealing with him.
Okay.
And everybody thinks that you can de-escalate a mentally ill person. I've handled many of these situations, and sometimes the fact that they're mentally ill makes it impossible to actually reason with them, de-escalate, especially when you're trying to do it in about a tenth of a second.
Okay,
But do you
Joey, last
need
word, we
to
only have a
kill
second.
them? And
Do you need
that's
to
the
kill them?
issue. Do you
All right.
need to kill them? That's the point.
Tom Fuentes, Joey Jackson, so appreciate your insight here, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, I just want to say something real quick. I'm going to take 1 or 2 minutes. This cops, we have to hold them to a higher standard. I mean, it's this, the gun accidentally fired. We posted a video last week where the cop shot the drunk driver who crashed his car and killed his wife. And he says gun accidentally went off. These guys are saying, oh, we accidentally shot and killed this woman. It's not okay. That's not acceptable. I mean, that's like if some guy is, says, oh, I was cleaning my gun and accidentally went off and shot my wife and killed her. Do we go, oh, okay, it's all good? No. And it's beyond that. It's again this higher standard thing. We're not even holding cops to the most basic standard that we would hold anybody else to. Let's say people are building a giant building downtown and they're moving 15,000-pound beams and they accidentally drop one on some cop's mom's car. Do you think saying, oh gosh, that was an accident, sorry, is going to be good enough for the cops mom dying? If some baker drops rat poison into the cop's mom's birthday cake, says, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kill your mom. It was an accident. Is that good enough? See, for the cops, it's good enough over and over again. Oh, it was an accident. We didn't mean to do that. Which, they're the ones that are dealing with this life and death situation. They have, they're trained, It's just not acceptable with anybody else. These guys have to be held to a higher standard, beyond a higher standard. I think they should be drug tested every single week. Every single week. That should just be a standard thing to do. But I also think that they should have 20 hours of hand-to-hand combat a month. Because the more of that you do, the more full contact, hand-to-hand combat that you do, combat training hand-to-hand that you do, the less likely you are going to be to reach for your gun when some dipshit retard with a baseball bat is coming your way. Because over and over again, you have somebody charging you 20 hours a month where you're like, okay, I know how to deal with this. It's easy to understand what needs to happen. You cops are dragging your feet and acting like, hey, we said we're sorry, which they never do. I'm so surprised they did it in this case with this mom. But if any of your cops' moms got killed by a baker or a taxi cab driver or a crane operator moving a giant steel beam, it was an accident, would not be good enough for you. So I don't understand why that's supposed to be good enough for us. And this other cop, right, this cop sucker on the CNN, he's like, oh yeah, my sergeant busted a couple of ribs, blah, 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 blah.
And, I could tell you, I went on a call where we saved a woman whose husband was just beating her. We could see it through the front window as we went through the door. And the second we laid hands on him to pull him off, unbeknownst to us, she grabbed a fireplace poker, struck my sergeant in the back, and broke 3 ribs. And here we were trying to save her.
And this other cop, right, this cop sucker on the CNN, he's like, oh yeah, my sergeant busted a couple of ribs, blah, 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 blah. Again, if any rescuers, like these guys who go out on the ski slopes, and or wherever, in these situations where it's like incredibly dangerous, if they save somebody's life, busting a couple of ribs, they're like, fucking A, I did my job. Yeah, I took a little bit of punishment, but I saved someone's life. Why don't you cops act like that? If firefighters acted the way you do, nobody would ever get rescued from any burning buildings, let alone people's pets. Firefighters rush in to save people's pets from burning buildings all the time. You guys can't handle some retard with a fucking baseball bat without shooting people? They're not even the innocent people? And then want to say, like, oops, my bad. Higher standard. Higher standard. You're supposed to be true professionals. None of this looks professional in any way. It looks like you're fucking frat club, frat boys, all down at the Masonic Lodge, pounding back as many of them as you can. Saying, hey, we're going to get away with everything. Because you know that the judges and the cops and the prosecutors all belong to the same Masonic lodges, right? You know this. So they all go and hang out together, and that's why cops get away with everything. All right, so thanks for tuning in again. Thanks for your continued support. We're doing a end of the year. It's not really end of the year. It's just going to be this continuous thing. I have to have help. I don't get help if I don't ask for it. I've been asking for it. Christmas Day, Boxing Day, no donations. So I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining about that. I have to have help. And I don't really look at it as donations. So, I look at it as like a tip for a job well done. So, if you think that I might deserve a little tip here and there, it would be nice to see something come my way. I'm just saying. Thanks again for your continued support, and hope you understand. I do this because you guys, for 10 years now, have said, never let them make you quit. And I haven't. I'm still standing 10 years later. And they have beat the shit out of me. And you know it. And I'm still here. But it's because of you that I'm still here. So, and it's the only way that I'm going to keep being here. It's the only way I'm going to stick around is because of you. Anyways, there's another clip coming up, this whole CNN clip with the guy and the broken ribs and the blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to point that out because I don't think it's right that cops aren't held to any kind of even basic standard when it comes to this, oh, we killed somebody accidentally. Bullshit. Because it wouldn't be good enough for you cops if it was your mom, would it? Thanks again. Stay cool. One of these days this war's gonna end. Till that day.
13 minutes past the hour, and this morning a Chicago woman shot to death by police. They call it a tragic accident. Family members call it recklessness and say it could have been prevented.
Police say 55-year-old Betty Jones was caught in the crossfire. It happened when Chicago police answered a 911 call early Saturday morning. The father of a 19-year-old college student said his son was threatening him with a baseball bat. His family says Quintonio LeGrier had a history of mental illness.
He was having a mental situation. Sometimes he'll get, a little loud, but not violent. I was just with my son on Christmas. I talked to him. I told him that he had to control his temper, but he wasn't violent.
LeGrier's father asked Betty Jones, their downstairs neighbor and mother of 5, to open the door for police. When she did, witnesses say LeGrier came charging down the stairs with a bat. Police opened fire, and both people were killed.
An innocent lady got shot as well because the police just was trigger happy. I went to the hospital. My son had 7 bullet wounds in him.
Chicago police apologized for Jones's death, saying in a statement, quote, "Upon arrival, officers were confronted by a combative subject resulting in the discharging of the officer's weapon, which fatally wounded 2 individuals. The 55-year-old female victim was accidentally struck and tragically killed. The department extends its deepest condolences to the victim's family and friends."
Now, this family, we've learned, is holding a press conference today at 11 Central Time. CNN will be there. With us, though, to talk about the situation, Tom Fuentes, CNN law enforcement analyst. I think it's going to be interesting, Tom, to find out what was exactly reported in this 911 call, what they knew going into this. But help us understand what it's like when you get a call like this from the police perspective.
It's interesting, Christy, because this is the one situation that you know is so dangerous. You know, when you make a traffic stop, and I made, I think, about 1,000 when I was a police officer, you don't know what's going to be the situation. Most of the time, it's not going to be a problem. But when you get the call to go to a domestic disturbance, you know you have a problem. It's only a degree of whether they're just shouting at each other or violent with each other. And the other thing most people don't realize, the holiday season's a joyous time for most people, but it's also a time of extreme stress. So people with mental illness or problems besides, normal financial problems, are liable to become violent during that. And I went to many, and often on Christmas Day, families throwing chairs at each other and all types of things. So when those officers arrive and the witnesses say this LeGrier was coming down the stairs with a baseball bat, it's really their worst expectation realized, being attacked by somebody with a bat. They admit that it was an unfortunate accident to shoot Betty Jones and kill her in the process, and it's a tragedy that both were killed. But still, from a police perspective, this is a highly charged, very difficult, very dangerous call to get.
Well, I know, and I want to talk about Betty Jones in a moment, but Congressman Bobby Rush from Chicago said a taser should have been used or de-escalation tactics instead. Why are those tactics not employed more often?
Well, the problem with that is that's easy to say on the outside, to second guess the police officers from, your comfortable office someplace. But when you're responding to this, sometimes in a split second, things go bad and you don't have time to even do something like that. And tasers aren't always reliable when you shoot somebody. Everybody thinks they're a miracle cure, but they're not. And, I could tell you, I went on a call where we saved a woman whose husband was just beating her. We could see it through the front window as we went through the door. And the second we laid hands on him to pull him off, unbeknownst to us, she grabbed a fireplace poker, struck my sergeant in the back, and broke 3 ribs. And here we were trying to save her. So you just don't know how bad it can go and how fast it can go bad.
Okay, Tom, I have a couple more questions for you. We're going to save that next hour here, so do stick with us, and thank you so much as always.
You're welcome.
Of course.
I'm the leading state sponsor of terrorism.